up, swashbucklers? You're listening to Under the Crossbones. My name is Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show. Thank you for tuning in once again here. Always happy to have you here listening so that I'm not just talking to the wall, because that would be tragic. Today, episode number 61. Fun fact about the number 61. 61 is a Cuban prime of the form p equals x cubed minus y cubed over x minus y, where x equals y plus 1. And it usually comes on a torta with pulled pork and ham and pickles and a spicy mustard. And I'm sorry, that's a Cuban sandwich. So I haven't had lunch yet. I'm hungry. Anyway, welcome to episode number 61 of Under the Crossbones. My guest today is Tim Murphy. He's the creator of the Pirates of Padre Tiempo comic book. And right now, he's running a Kickstarter to get his second issue of the comic book out. And that Kickstarter is running until November 3rd. So go check it out. Just go over to Kickstarter, type in pirate, and you'll find Pirates of Padre Tiempo. It's a really cool art. And I think you're going to dig it if you're a comic book person. So check it out. So we're going to talk with Tim here in a minute, and it's a great talk. You're going to dig it because it's all comic booky and fun and things like that. Had a great show in Bethel Island, California over the weekend. I was playing the marina out there, and I showed up at 6. They were lined up out the door for, like, it was sold out, just packed. It was so great. We had a really great time. I was working with Stephen B. from Sacramento. Sandra Risser from Concord was opening. Everybody killed. It was one of those where we were just standing back there going, why can't we have an audience like this every night? These people, they paid to get in. They made money for the house. They laughed at everything. They were wonderful. It was such a fun show. They were not like super easy, like they didn't laugh if they didn't like it or if it wasn't funny. But so we still had to be good at what we do. But man, they were good. Fun show. So I hope you guys, I'm coming down to Florida soon, and a bunch of other dates. We'll get to those in a second. But I hope everybody down in the southeast United States has made it through the storm Matthew, which is like the sort of a wimpy name for a storm, but a hurricane. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing okay down there and you got all your stuff together because I'm coming. I'm super glad you got all this out of the way before I flew down there. I appreciate you doing that a couple weeks ahead of time. Anyway, yeah, so I hope everybody's good down there. And the reason I bring it up is because especially the Pirate Radio of the Treasure Coast folks are down there. And Under the Crossbones is sponsored by Pirate Radio of the Treasure Coast. That's WKKC-DB Digital Radio. And they're playing the best music and pirate talk radio. I would guess the only place playing pirate talk radio besides here. So listen to the show on both the stations. Just go to pirateradioofthetreasurecoast.com or pirateradiotc.com, and you can download their apps. It's Pirate Radio of the Treasure Coast through the music station, Pirate Radio Talk for the talk station. You get the apps. You get them on whatever your favorite app store is, and check it out. And you can hear Under the Crossbones on there as well. You'll be able to hear current episodes and back episodes, which is super cool. So tour dates, yes, they're coming up as you're listening to this. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, the day it comes out, I am driving right now, actually. Headed up to Washington. Wednesday, October the 12th, I'll be at Seven Cedars Casino in Sequim, Washington. That's up by Seattle. Thursday, October the 13th, I will be headlining at Union Square in Longview, Washington. And if you know anybody in that area, tell them to come on out because I don't have much of a crowd in Longview, and so I'm taking a risk on this one. So should be fun, but tell them to come on out. That's October the 13th. Friday, October the 14th, I will be at the 7 Nightclub in Bend, Oregon, headlining a show there. And then Wednesday, October the 26th, I will be at Tavolino della Notte in Coral Springs, Florida. Thursday through Saturday, October 27th through the 29th, I will be at the Laugh In Comedy Club in Fort Myers, Florida, headlining 5 shows there. So Florida, Washington, Oregon, it's the Diagonal Tour this month. Ridiculous. Next month, you'll be able to catch me in Wisconsin, Illinois, just outside Chicago. A couple dates in Wisconsin. I'll be in September because I'm going back in time. I will be in San Diego in December, so you'll be able to catch me down there as well. Lots of stuff coming up. If you want to catch all the tour dates, go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the tour dates button, and you'll find out all the places I'm going to be. And if you want me to come near you, let's make it happen. If you're enjoying the show, and I hope you are, check us out on Facebook. It's Facebook/Under the Crossbones, Twitter/Under Crossbones with no the. And of course, you can always get all the show notes, links, videos, all that fun stuff for this show at underthecrossbones.com/061 for episode 61. Thanks to everybody that's been sending donations. That's very cool of you. If you would like to help support the show and be awesome and be a best friend of mine, go to underthecrossbones.com/support. There's a little PayPal box there. You can just drop whatever happy little number you like in that PayPal box and donate to the show. Maybe figure the same price as a bottle of rum, right? Like that. I don't drink rum, so I'll take the money. Thank you. There's also an Amazon banner there. If you click on that little Amazon banner and you go over to Amazon and you buy yourself something nice, like maybe a new beard oil or a welcome mat or a set of steak knives or whatever you would like, then I get a little kickback from Amazon. And thanks for everybody that's been doing that. We've seen a little bit coming in over there. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, it's super easy. It's super cheap. And all the information is right there on that support page. So that's underthecrossbones.com/support, and you can help out the show too. All right, so let's dig into the show, man, because I have great talk coming up here with Tim Murphy, the creator of Pirates of Padre Tiempo. Cool comic book. Let's check it out. All right, here we go. So you are a comic book artist. You have a new comic book series coming out called The Pirates of Padre Tiempo, which is a great name. And so tell me a little bit about the comic book, and then we're going to dive into your history and see where you come from.
Awesome. Pirates of Padre Tiempo is a comic book series about a little boy named Flynn who is fascinated by pirates. And he sort of idolizes this one pirate captain in particular. He's a legendary pirate named Blackjack McCoy.
Okay.
And so when Flynn comes across this fabled pirate treasure called the Treasure of Padre Tiempo, which is just it looks like a piece of 8 at first glance, but it's a magic pirate coin that grants whoever possesses it the ability to control time. So when Flynn comes across this magic pirate coin, he's instantly transported back in time to the golden age of piracy, where he comes face to face with his idol, Blackjack McCoy. And he realizes that Blackjack McCoy, not only is he not the legendary pirate that history would have him believe, but Blackjack McCoy may be the worst pirate of all time. He's a klutz. He has no idea what he's doing. He's not respected by his crew. He's not respected by his peers. And he's sort of a laughingstock. And so Flynn realizes that he needs to find the Treasure of Padre Tiempo again in 1717 in order to get home. And he sort of proposes to Blackjack, I will make you a great pirate if you help me find this treasure and get home.
Uh-huh.
And so from there, they sort of buddy up and they go on this adventure to find all of these pieces of 8. They have to join these pieces of the coin together to make it whole again. And it's complicated by, there's a villain who is out looking for the treasure at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And there's all sorts of adventure and hijinks that they get into.
Nice. And I'll tell you what appeals to me right off the bat about that is I love a flawed villain, a villain who's not very good at being a villain, which I think has always been the attraction of a character like Captain Hook, where you go, oh, he's there. Ooh, he's scared. He's got phobias and flaws and things like that. And I think that's a really great design for a villain. That's neat. How did you come across using that idea for a character?
So I've always, as I'm sure you can probably relate, and so can many of your listeners. I've always loved pirates since I was a kid, and one of the things that I loved very much was Treasure Island.
Okay.
And Treasure Island always kind of stuck with me because, and I think a lot of people dismiss it as sort of children's literature, but Treasure Island deals with a lot of pretty heavy subject matter.
Sure.
For being something, it's one of the central conflicts is a child who is coming to grips with the fact that he got played by an adult. He can't trust a grown-up. And it raises a lot of interesting questions about, do Jim Hawkins and Squire Trelawney have any more right to the treasure than Long John Silver and his crew? So, it's a lot deeper than people think. And the thing about Pirates of Padre Tiempo is when I say it's family friendly, or it's it's safe for kids, or things like that. I feel like sometimes the hesitating purchaser might sort of roll his eyes or something like that.
Sure.
It's not like Disney. It's not like Jake and the Neverland Pirates. It's not. It's not Dora the Explorer with a pirate theme. It's the same way that, like, when I used to be I was a camp counselor for a few summers, and I used to teach kids how to make video games and things like that. And one of my boss would tell us that if you have a question as to whether or not something's appropriate, we're creating something called the Star Wars rule. So if it was okay in Star Wars, it's okay in their video game. And it makes sense. It's sort of a PG concept where, they're pirates. They're violent guys, but there's not a lot of gratuitous, graphic violence, or, there's no sex. There's romance, but, if it falls on a scale between Treasure Island and, something like Black Sails, which, like, as an adult, I love Black Sails. Black Sails is a great show, but it's definitely a lot closer to, Treasure Island, where there's plenty of danger and action and adventure, and there is violence, but it's not of like a graphic nature.
Sure. Yeah. Now, did you at any time find that to be constraining, or is that a constraint that you really wanted to put on yourself, and how did that affect the creativity of putting it together?
I didn't find it constraining at first, because I knew I wanted it to be something on that sort of Treasure Island level that was accessible to kids.
Okay.
But at the same time, I've constantly found myself saying, like, am I going to get a letter from a parent if somebody's pointing a gun at somebody else? But then I always go back to Treasure Island, and you hear things like them that dies will be the lucky ones.
Right.
Jim Hawkins says, one more step, Mr. Hands, I'll blow your brains out. That's like I said, that's heavy stuff for a children's book. So
certainly,
it's tricky finding a balance, but hopefully I've done that.
I think, the fear of getting a letter from a parent, I think is always there. And I think that would happen if you had a scene that involved peanuts, even. They'd be like, my kid is allergic to peanuts. How dare you put them in your comic book? Because it just goes so over the top insane so much of the time these days that you don't know what you can get in trouble for. I think a friend of mine told a joke on stage one night about kale and offended somebody in the audience who happened to really like kale. So, you never know what's going to offend somebody. And I think just that you're making the effort to, make it kid friendly and things like that, and keep yourself within those parameters is certainly enough of a defense where, there's just people will protest or complain about anything. I was at a Disney expo and there were protesters outside saying it was the work of the devil. I'm like, it's Disney, you guys. It's ridiculous. So, but I can definitely see how when you're working with a child audience, that can definitely be a concern. I work with adults most of the time, and I worry about having to offend people. Right. And
one thing that I always recommend is that, something that I might find inoffensive could totally offend somebody else. So I always recommend that, if you're a parent and you want your kids to read this, always, read it before they do.
Sure. Yeah. And so the reason that we're talking about all this is because you have a Kickstarter happening right now for your first and second issue, right, of the book?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I published issue number 1 of Pirates of Padre Tiempo this past spring, back in May, and I really only sold it locally in the Baltimore area. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, especially as soon as I finished issue 1, I started working on issue number 2. Nice. So I really wanted to expand my audience, and I also wanted to do a much larger print run this time around. So the Kickstarter is really for doing like a small sort of supplementary kind of print run for second printing of issue number 1. Mm-hmm. And then really the big point of it is to get issue number 2 printed as well.
Sure. Okay, great. And everybody can go check out that Kickstarter, which how long is that running through?
The Kickstarter ends on November 3rd. So if you go to Kickstarter, you type in Pirates. I think it's like the second thing that comes up. If you type in Pirates of Padre Tiempo, it's the first thing that pops up. You can also get there through our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Pirates of Padre Tiempo. We're on Twitter at POPT Comics. And then we have a website as well. That's piratesofpadretiempo.com.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'm going to get all that stuff linked up in the show notes, certainly.
Awesome.
So let's go back a little bit. You said you were a pirate fan ever since you were a kid. Where does the drawing come in? Where does the love of comic books come in?
I think there's a really good chance that I may have been an artist even longer than I've been a pirate fan. But
okay,
I would always see a blank surface as an opportunity, and my parents were constantly frustrated by me, especially when we moved out of our house when I was about 9 years old.
Uh-huh.
We moved out, and they flipped over. They moved my bed, and they had found that between my bed and the wall, I had drawn all over the wall every night when they put me to sleep. So they were a little peeved by that. I think it took something like 4 or 5 coats of paint to cover all that up.
Uh-huh.
But then when they moved the coffee table in the living room, they flipped it over, and there were a ton. My dad calls it my Sistine Chapel. There were a ton of stick figure drawings and things under there. And when I got married and moved out, they gave me the coffee table. So now It's in my house.
So you had gotten under the coffee table and drawn on the other underside of it?
Yeah, and my parents would be in the room. I would just sort of sneak under there and slide under the coffee table, and I don't think they really cared what I was doing as long as I was quiet. But then they flip over the coffee table, and it was like, but
that's hilarious.
That's how I got my start.
That's funny. Is there one stick figure reaching out and touching the fingertip of another stick finger? That's what. That's really great. So then, how did you? What is your path been as far as drawing on a professional or semi-professional level?
So I went to college and I studied animation in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I was going to move out west and seek a job with one of the movie studios out west.
Uh-huh.
And then I met my wife in the same, on the same track as me.
Uh-huh.
And I fell in love, and she had no aspirations to move out west.
Uh-huh.
So, I started looking on the East Coast, and I got out of college in 2009, and we were told very frankly that this is the worst economy you could possibly get out of college and go right into.
Right.
But I was very fortunate in that I got a job right out of college, like 2 weeks out of college.
Oh, wow.
Not only did I get a job, but I got a job as a storyboard artist.
Nice.
So, I got a job doing something that I loved. And I did that for about 2 years. And, I come from a long line of educators. My mom is an administrator. My brother was a teacher for a while. And eventually my wife got into teaching as well. But I decided that, I think, maybe education would be a good use of my talent. So I was an art teacher for about 5 years. I had a blast doing that. And then last January, I got a job offer to be a creative director.
Nice.
And so that's where I am now.
Fantastic. It's interesting that you mentioned you studied animation, because as soon as I looked at your drawings, I was like, this is an animation guy. The pictures, I was like, these pictures should be moving. Because you had a very animation style to your art that I really, really like, because I'm an animation guy. I love that stuff. And so I thought that was really cool. Yeah, the drawings were really, the art is really great in these. And does your style come from that animation training, or was that a style that you had gravitated to before that?
I think a lot of it is stuff that I picked up kind of on my way to becoming an animator. And then certainly once I was in college, I really did kind of hone it. To what it is now, but it's always changing too. So I look back at issue number 1, and I'm like, issue number 2 is totally going to blow this away. So that's the thing about being an artist. Is you're constantly trying to outdo yourself.
Sure.
So that's the fun of it.
Yeah, no, I know it well. I was just talking to somebody else who was asking about my early comedy gigs, and I was like, yeah, don't look at those. Those were we don't need to go there. But yeah, no, that's really great. And who do you look to as influences? Are you looking at Disney? Are you looking at Tex Avery, guys like that?
Yeah, certainly one of my big heroes, and definitely on my way to becoming an animator. Disney's Nine Old Men, and chief among them were artists like Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. But
sure.
Also, guys like Mark Davis, and Mark Davis is responsible for a lot of the art that went into the Pirates of the Caribbean theme park ride.
Yep.
And a lot of that stuff is, that sticks with you, like just the fact that each character has its own personality, and, just the gesture of the character tells you so much about who they are.
Yeah, Mark Davis was amazing for that, in just that, those little tiny details that really fill in the backstory of some random character. I've always really enjoyed that too. That's really great. And so when you get the idea of, is this your first comic book that you've put out, or have you done other ones?
This is the first comic book that I've done professionally. Okay. As an art teacher, I'd make, these little photocopy comics about, I gave myself a secret identity. I'm a huge superhero fan too.
Nice.
But I gave myself, a secret identity as Art Man, which sounds so dumb now, but first graders really loved it. But so I would do these sort of short, just black and white pencil photocopy comics.
Uh-huh.
I ran a comic book club at school, or a camp
Nice.
at school over the summers, and it was a lot of fun. But this is the first time, I had never had my work professionally printed until issue number 1 of Pirates of Padre Tiempo came out, and
Uh-huh.
it's one of those things as an artist where, as you progress, the more you do, you just sort of you get that itch that you want to keep going.
Sure.
And once you see your work in print, you just want to you want to move on to the next big thing. So certainly getting a box of my comic books was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it's the greatest thing in the world when that box shows up. I've had that with albums where my CD, case of CDs shows up in the mail, and 6 months later I still have half a case of CDs left.
Yeah, I know that feeling well too.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit. I know very little about the comic book industry. What is the process for, here I've got a comic book for sale to the world. Where does that go out to, and how do you put it out to the world?
So there's a lot of different ways. And one time I heard somebody compare breaking into the comic book industry as, it's this highly secret guarded fort, and people are just trying to break in. And every time somebody successfully finds a way to break in, they patch up the hole in the fence, and you can't get in the same way again. So, comic books are tricky, and it's one of those things, especially when I got my most recent job last January.
Uh-huh.
I realized that, I don't need to break into the industry if I have all of the materials that I can tell the story myself.
Sure.
Why don't I just tell the story myself? So, certainly there's, even in the world of independent comics or indie comics, there's a dozen different ways to do it, and probably more. But certainly, a lot of people that I know, they do web comics. So they release strips in a series, and for free online, and then they get a lot of their followers that way, and they build an audience, and then they run a Kickstarter to do a collection of their online strips as a book and things like that, which I think is a really neat way to work, for sure. But the way I'm doing it is a little bit backwards in that respect, in that I'm coming up with this book that I really wanted. It's a story that I want to tell. So I pencil it, I ink it, I color it, and then I have it printed. And most recently, I've been in talks with a couple of different stores, about putting it on the shelves, either, in consignment, or, there are different agreements that stores can come up with.
Sure. Yeah. Nice. Well, that's good. That's good. How long does it take you? Like, how long did it take to finish the first issue?
If I didn't have my job, I would have done it really, really quickly. I probably also would have starved, and my wife and baby girl would probably be out on the street right now. But it took me. The first issue is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different because back in 2015, yeah, early 2015. I was still trying to build a portfolio, trying to look for, maybe a publisher who might want to pick this story up or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And so what I did was I created a 14-page, which is half of issue 1.
Okay.
I created it as a 14-page preview where, Flynn finds the coin and goes back in time. And that's pretty much it. That's what happens in the 14 pages.
Uh-huh.
And I sold it for, $2 a piece. It was a mini comic. It was half the size of a regular comic, pretty much. And, I sold it for $2 a piece. And I got the idea out there. And that's one of those things where, it's like, you get bit by the bug and you want to just keep going.
Sure, yeah.
So the rest of 2015 unfolded, and it was kind of, a tumultuous year. But I sort of let the pirate story sit on the shelf because I thought, I told the first half of the book and it's out there now, and I'll get back to it eventually. And then the next year rolled around, and I was going to I for the last few years I've been at the local comic book shop doing free sketches on Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, okay.
And the shop owner said, I'd really like you to have something to sell this year.
Sure.
And so I thought, well, I sold those little photocopy things last year. I guess I could do the second half of my book. And I had maybe 2 months to put it together.
Oh, wow.
So I stressed out about it a lot. I worked really hard. I don't remember most of it. But I put the second half of the book together. I colored it. I got it printed, and I had it available for sale this past May.
Nice.
But the difference between issue 1 and issue 2 is as soon as I got issue 1 printed, I started working on issue number 2. Uh-huh. And the whole thing was, this is another tangent, but the whole thing was written as it was going to be an animated short that my friend and I were going to sort of produce on our own, because the best advice I got from one of my college professors at graduation was, don't stop creating for yourself.
Right.
You may have a creative job. You may have an artistic job. You may not. You might be pumping gas. But no matter what, you should be making your own artwork. And so that's something that really stuck with me. And I wanted to just keep, that expression moving forward. So my friend and I were going to do this as an animated short. And then as I wrote the script, it just got longer and longer and longer. And it's like, we are never going to animate this. Like, this was going to be hard when it was a 6-minute cartoon. Right. And now it's, it's a 120-page screenplay. So it sort of dawned on me that I would have a lot of control and I could work at my own pace if I did it as a comic book.
Uh-huh.
And so I worked on it as a comic, but there is an end in sight. There's a written ending for the whole story. So it's not going to be an ongoing series. I anticipate it being somewhere between issues. I like the sound of 8 because of Pieces of 8.
Okay.
But, it may end up being somewhere around 10, 11, 12 issues long.
Sure. And it's not unheard of for things to be optioned and turned into movies later on. So you can certainly expand that universe as needed. Yeah, no, that's really great. It was interesting that you said you were selling them for $2 a copy or so. What does like your issue 1 go for? How much is that?
Issue number 1, I've been selling for $5. I sold it for $5 because it is 28 pages of story. So a typical comic book is roughly 28 pages, but you may have, 6 pages of ads in there.
Right.
So I don't feel too bad about, pricing it at $5 because it's independent. It's hard to produce these things,
sure.
But it's also, it's a lot more content than your typical comic book, which is something that I wanted. I I don't want to include ads in it, and that's something that's great because it's creator owned. It would probably be a little bit easier if I had some advertisements in there, but I'm not even sure that's a whole can of worms that I'm not even sure I want to open with, ad placement and things like that, and who's your audience and things like that. So.
No, that sounds terribly reasonable for $5. And I'm a creator myself. I have albums and CDs and DVDs and T-shirts and all this stuff that I put out. And there's two things about it that I think is interesting. One is that where you were saying you have to create for yourself, no matter what's going on, you just have to keep creating. And I think people who aren't in our kind of industries don't understand that. They go, well, why are you making that? And I go, because I want to. How are you going to make money from it? I don't know, but it's still going to exist. Yeah, it's still going to exist, whether it makes money or not, and that makes me happy. So I like that idea, and I also think it's interesting that when somebody will balk at $5 for something that it's like, oh, I just spent a year of my life creating this. Can I have $5 for it? And they're like, nah, and you're like, oh, all right,
right.
So I think people don't always necessarily think about the work that goes into the sheets of paper or the disc of plastic or whatever it is we're selling them. And I think it becomes even worse of a problem when it's digital, when there is no physical aspect to it at all. I think it's even harder because I still sell plenty of CDs at my gigs, but to get people to pay for a download is getting near impossible online. Right. And so it's interesting. Is it harder now to sell a hard copy comic book when something like webcomics exist? Certainly,
I don't have the numbers of followers that a lot of webcomics do. So I think that's kind of the brilliance of webcomics is, you're going to make it anyway. You're going to put it out there. So you sort of amass these followers who are picking up on your stuff for free. It's a tricky balance, but I don't have that built-in audience because I haven't built them in. So, it's hard, but in terms of digital sales, I mean, I haven't, to date, all of my sales have been hard copies. Now, I've sold hard copies through the internet, through our internet store.
Sure.
But I haven't sold any digital comics. And for a while, after I was selling the hard copies, I didn't even have digital copies for sale. So I had to sort of set up a digital store. And I just got word the other day that Pirates of Padre Tiempo is going to be available through Comixology, which is an online comic book digital platform.
Nice.
Which is really cool. They have a whole, submission process for independent creators, which is awesome. So I'm waiting on word to, whenever that's going to be available for sale.
That's great. That's fantastic. How did you go about developing your story chops, your writing chops? Because if you're coming from an animation background, a drawing background, did you find the story part of it to be difficult at all?
I actually did. I found the story to be extremely difficult. I knew when I first came up with the idea, I knew I wanted to do, at the time it was going to be a cartoon, but I knew I wanted to do a story, and I wanted to do something with my love of pirates, because I think a lot of the people who knew me as, the world's biggest Superman fan, which I think I am, but I didn't want to do another superhero, because superheroes are great and I love superheroes. But I think every superhero since Superman has been based on Superman in some way. So, there's a lot of, I think, untapped potential in the comic book market, and there's a lot of great books out there that are not superheroes. So I knew I wanted to do something with pirates, and I sort of had this idea. I had this scene in my head where someone is under the water, and they see this piece of eight on the ground underwater, and they swim down, they pick it up, they kick off the sea floor, or the, whatever. They kick off the ground, they hit the surface, and boom, they're in the 1700s. That's all I really had at first.
Right.
And so I kicked it around. I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to my friends, and like, maybe it's, an Indiana Jones type story, and it's, a guy who's like 30 something, and he's like a professional treasure hunter, and maybe he has a kid's sidekick. And I went through a lot of different iterations before I realized, like I said, I kept going back to Treasure Island.
Right.
And, the strongest part of Treasure Island is that relationship between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver.
Certainly, yeah.
And, I was talking to my wife, and I was on the bus at Disney World with my wife, and I'm thinking about this all the time, no matter where I am doing whatever.
Sure.
And I turned to my wife, and I was like, what if he sucks at being a pirate? And my wife's eyes just like widened, like, I'm listening. And I was like, and then the kid has to teach him how to be a good pirate. And, that's really where the ball started rolling. I told my wife, I feel like I cracked the story at that point.
Yep.
And, it just, everything started flowing from there.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was just reading, I'm working my way through a book about screenwriting because I'm in the midst of a novel that will eventually be turning into a screenplay. And I was reading this book, and
awesome.
Everything was about the log line. Start with the log line. Don't do anything until you have the log line. And it sounds like that's where you cracked your log line right there. He's a pirate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have Microsoft Word files on my computer that are like, I think I have 4 or 5 that are like logline final, and then one that's like logline final number 2,
yeah.
And logline final, because I kept going back. I was like, no, it's got to be better than this. So,
yeah,
and that's the cool thing about being an independent creator is I don't report to anybody,
Sure.
So I can do whatever I want. I have total creative control. I can. Even if I go to my wife and she's like, that is the worst idea you've ever come up with, don't use that, I could still use it if I really wanted to.
Well, when my girlfriend says that is specifically the idea I would use. If she goes, oh my God, you're not going to say that on stage, are you? Oh, I am now. Yeah. That's great. That's fantastic. Good. So the Kickstarter goes through November the 3rd, you said, and everybody can go hit the Facebook page, Facebook/Pirates of Padre Tiempo, to get links to that. That'll be easiest, and there'll be links on the show note and all that kind of stuff. You know what? I just realized I have another friend who's a super giant Superman fan, also named Tim. Must be a Tim thing.
Really?
Yeah. So this has been really fun, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And there it is, friends. That is my talk with Tim Murphy, creator of the Pirates of Padre Tiempo. It's probably not the name of it. Creator of the Pirates of Padre Tiempo comic book. And you can go over to piratesofpadretiempo.com, all spelled like it sounds. You can find them on Facebook. Definitely go over to the Kickstarter. Just put Pirates in the search box on Kickstarter, like he said, and you will find it right there, which makes it sound like we need more pirate Kickstarter things. I don't know. Let's do something. So, Pirates of Padre Tiempo, go check out the website over there. Coming up, we got some comedy, we got some music, but first, my friends, I do not want you to be taken in by the modern pirates. Not the Somali pirates, not the guys taking ships, because you don't have a ship, probably. I'm talking, you do have an identity, and there are pirates, there are thieves out there trying to take your identity, and it sucks. It's a drag. You need a LifeLock account. LifeLock will go out to the dark, ugly parts of the web. They will make sure that your information is not out there, and if it is out there, they will help you fix it. So get yourself a LifeLock account. You can get 10% off. All you have to do is go to underthecrossbones.com/LifeLock. Click the little green Start Your Membership button, and you will get yourself 10% off a LifeLock membership. It's cheap. I've got one. It's very, very helpful. They even give you like a free credit score and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. Got an ebook for you, a free ebook. It is The Pirates of Panama, or Buccaneers of America by Alexander Exquemelin. 61 episodes, and I can finally say Exquemelin accurately. It's a great ebook. It's a great, of course, it wasn't originally an ebook because it came out in like 1700 or 1690 or something like that. It was a book back then. Now it's an ebook because that's what we do now. But it's a great seminal piece of pirate writing from the golden age of piracy. If you haven't read it, you should read it because it's going to be awesome. And I got it for you for free. You can go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the free ebook button. Or if you're out and about, you're at work, you're jogging, you're on a train somewhere, you could just grab your little phone, your little cell phone there, text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. Just text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. It'll kick you back a little link to download the ebook for all your very own to keep forever and ever. All right, we got some comedy today from Chad Denick, and Chad is opening for me this week in Longview, Washington, at Union Square there, and I picked him to open the show because he's darn funny, and a friend of mine turned me on to him, and you're going to like him too. So we're going to hear from Chad Denick, and then we're going to hear a song called All the Way on Love from Douglas Coleman, and Douglas has a podcast as well called The Douglas Coleman Show that you will be able to hear me on about 6 weeks from now. Because we taped the interview and it went very well. It was very fun, and you'll be able to hear me on the Douglas Coleman Show soon too. So I thought I'd spin you one of his songs. All right, let's dig into it. Here we go. Comedy from Chad Denick and All the Way on Love from Douglas Coleman.
I wore this shirt to church today. It was regular church, but I think I look so good I could have wore it to black church. But it was boring white people church. And I realized today, though, hearing praise songs, I think I get why some people could think that Jesus is white, because that's some white-ass music. Oh, man. A lot of people don't have the problem with it. I don't like the word cracker. I think it's offensive, because crackers contain gluten. And of course, the only people allergic to gluten are crackers. Yes. I read online recently that the annual income on average for a stripper is $125,000 a year. Yeah. It sounds like a lot if you don't factor in expenses like glitter and cocaine. Personally, I can't go to strip clubs anymore. The judge was super clear on that. No, I can't go to strip clubs because they bum me out. Like, in a strip club, it's very dark, literally and emotionally. And I feel like I'm at the Humane Society when I'm there. Except nobody's getting adopted.
And that's our show for today, friends. Thank you once again for tuning in. If you want to find out more about the Pirates of Padre Tiempo comic book by Tim Murphy, go to piratesofpadretiempo.com. Go check it out on Kickstarter. Just put Pirates in the search box. You can find them on Facebook. You can find, I'll bet if you just Googled Pirates of Padre Tiempo, something interesting would come up. Make sure to dig in on his Kickstarter, which goes until November 3rd, 2016, and help the guy get his issue out, because that would be great. If you want to find out more about comedian Chad Denick, go to facebook.com/chad.denick, and Denick is Denick. If you want to find out more from Douglas Coleman and hear some more Douglas Coleman music, go to, ready, DouglasColemanMusic.com. Yeah, super easy. That's the way the internet works. And of course, if you want to find all the show notes for this show, links, videos, whatever I come up with to put on there, go to underthecrossbones.com/061. Keep leaving those nice iTunes reviews. Thank you very much. Had a couple new ones come in. 5 stars is the way you go if you like the show. If you don't like the show, don't leave a review. That's the way it works. Yay! So hit those iTunes reviews. I like to see them. Make sure that you're subscribed through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're probably there. So make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you get all the new ones every week automatically. All right, friends. I'm going to go pack for the tour now and eat some lunch. And now I really want a Cuban sandwich, but I'm probably just going to eat a salad. Thanks for tuning in again. I'll catch you next week. Bye.